Hey everyone, Generation Y Conservative here with a message about what's going on with the election and what we need to be focused on. Right now, we have still lawsuits pending and things going on with the election to determine who the president is going to be. But I like to think of this as an opportunity for us to look at this kind of like a video game. Usually with a video game, there's a main objective to go after, and then there's a lot of side quests along the way that you can achieve as well. In order to get Trump as a president, that would be the side quest at this point, would be icing on the cake. But the main objective that we need to be focusing on, whether Trump wins or loses, is to focus on what's going on with our elections and the fraud that happens all the time, every single election cycle. It's not just this one. If you were to listen to the media, they would tell you that there was no fraud during this election, and that's absolutely not true. There's two things that Washington insiders will tell you about elections. Number one, there is always fraud. It just isn't calculable at the level where it would actually make a statistical difference in the end. It is always happening. It just doesn't have that big of an effect on every election. Number two, each party has their own big issues. And I'll just use one as an example, global warming for the left, in which they campaign on. And those things that they campaign on like that are never meant to be solved, because if they solved them, they would not be able to have a fundraising opportunity in the future. This is merely big things that they cannot change, that they go after every single time to ask you to vote for and specifically donate money towards their campaign so that they can fight it, and they never actually end up fighting it. It's just to rile you up and get your money. Now, number one, with the fraud and everything, what we need to focus on right now, and our message should be that there is fraud happening in the election system, whether big or small. And I think we're starting to see that there was a lot of things that either did go wrong or potentially could have gone wrong because of the lack of tools that we have in place for the election system right now. There are three things that we should be standing up for as Americans and demanding to happen in future elections as we go forward in order for us to have faith in the election system again. As of right now, over 50% of the American people don't have faith in the American election system. Number one on that list should be that we require voter ID. That means when you go in to vote and every person gets their one vote, you should be able to show your identification to show that you're the person that is going in to vote. Now, the left over the last decade or so has argued the fact that this would be a racist thing to implement. And the reasoning for that is that a lot of poorer people and in minority neighborhoods and everything don't have access to or don't have the money to access a photo identification card in order for them to vote. But I'm actually pretty sure that if you were to go to the American people as a political system and say, listen, we are going to require photo identification in order to vote, can we use a portion of the budget and taxpayer funds to allow for the opportunity for photo identification for voters that don't typically have access to these types of tools in order to give them the opportunity to vote, legal citizens, mind you? I'm pretty sure that the American people would be okay with that. Number two, the second thing that we should be asking for is that all mail-in ballots, that is absentee ballots and military ballots, and the absentee as well, are mailed in with a deadline of at least a week before the election and counted before the election. And that's very important because it opens the door to fraud when you count those ballots after the election. We all went to bed on election night with Trump in the lead in 5 major key swing states for the election and woke up to find out that at 4 o'clock in the morning, magically, that number of ballots were made up in each of those states in order for Biden to assume the lead. Now, that opens the opportunity for people in counting the ballots to say this is how many ballots we need to make up this divide and count that many ballots and throw out the rest. I'm not saying that that did happen, but when you leave things to human hearts, there is a corruption that can take place with that. And I don't know if it happened, but it did open the door to that kind of fraud, and I think that that's unfair. So they should be counted prior to the election and immediately tallied in the live results that night. And then anything voted on during that day should come in after the fact so we know what we're dealing with right off the bat. Number 3, we should have a system where absolutely every single vote that is counted towards the final tally is signed off on or stamped off on by a representative from each party to ensure that there is no cheating going on that way. These 3 things should be at least the fundamental foundation of what we should be standing up for and shouting, demanding with a backbone as American people to reinstate faith in our election system. If by doing these things we can be secure and have faith in our elections going forward, it'll be better for the country as a whole. But as of right now, over 50% of the people are not going to trust that the election cycle is going to go forward from here with any faith in the numbers that actually come out from it.